Namaste. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Dr. Brijesh Thapa, and currently I'm a professor and head of the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at Oklahoma State University. On behalf of NACA, we extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this annual meeting. Really, it gives us great satisfaction to know of your commitment by joining us on a Saturday morning or evening from different time zones of the US as well as from Nepal. This is truly a testament of how NACA has evolved from a humble beginnings as an organic organization to really an institutionalized community of scholars who share a common purpose. NACA, as we all know, is really a platform that is accessible to all members who are willing to engage, network, and establish pathways to collaborate in various academic disciplines. So if you are a member, this is your organization. If you're not, please go to nepaliacademics.org and see if you fulfill the criteria, and you can sign up from right there. So given that this is your organization, let's continue to maintain the momentum and intentional purpose and spirited passion to really move us collectively forward. So thank you again for your most important resource today. That is your gift of time. We really appreciate you being here. Now, while I've been given the task of being MC for today, but first, please allow me to recognize the annual meeting committee members, as they were the ones that provided the leadership, service, and time to formulate a compact program for you. So let me offer some thanks to Dr. Neelam Paudel from University of Tennessee, Dr. Arati Maleku from The Ohio State University, Dr. Soni Pradhananga from University of Rhode Island, Dr. Omkar Joshi from Oklahoma State University. Really thank you for their time, as well as the leadership of EC, that's the Executive Council. So this is an all-day program. We really appreciate your continued engagement throughout the whole duration if your schedule permits. The overall schedule is segmented into two sessions. The first session is open to the public, while the second session is a closed annual meeting for NACA members only. As a housekeeping note, while this program is in a Zoom format, all participants' microphones have been muted by the organizers to ensure smooth facilitation of the agenda, as well as to avoid some background noise. But you do have the ability to engage and ask questions via the chat box. So moving on, let me introduce our president, NACA president, Dr. Gan Newpane. He's a professor in the School of Community Resources and Development at Arizona State University. His current appointment is Vice Provost and Dean's Fellow of the Graduate College at that university, and previously also served as the Associate Dean of Research for the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions. Notably, he's currently the editor-in-chief of an academic journal entitled Tourism Review International. So, welcome, Mr. President. The Zoom floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thapa. Namaste, everyone. Good morning for those who are in the US, and good evening for those who have joined us from Nepal. Thank you for joining. On behalf of Nepali academics in America, I would like to welcome you all to our 2024 annual meeting. This is our 5th annual meeting, and we have some exciting agenda for you. And this is an opportunity for all of us, NACA members, partners, supporters, to come together and share the achievements of the past year and also discuss about our future. As Dr. Thapa mentioned, we have 2 sessions this morning and afternoon. The first session will include discussion on higher education in Nepal, including keynote address from Honorable Minister of Education, Science and Technology from Nepal. And we'll do a 2025 conference announcement and also interactive listening session to discuss the future of NACA. The first session is open for anyone, so please stay for the entire session. We have some slight changes in our schedule, but we'll proceed with our agenda. And the second session will be our General Assembly, where we'll update our annual activities, provide financial report, and take care of other businesses needed to run the organization. And the second session is open only for NACA members. So let me begin with a brief introduction because I see some new faces here. So let's begin with a very brief introduction, who we are, what we do, as NACA. So NACA is a nonprofit, non-partisan, and independent professional network of diaspora academics, Nepali academics, I should say. I would like to say out loud, NACA एउटा स्वतन्त्र, गैर लाभकारी र गैर दलीय संस्था हो. We are not a sister organization of any other organization. Just to give you a context, according to our rough estimate, we have over 500 Nepali academics in the US who hold academic, research, and administrative positions at various higher education and research institutions in the United States. Many of them are in leadership roles in their universities as deans, school directors, department heads, program directors, and research center directors. Their fields of expertise are very diverse, from humanities and social sciences to natural sciences, medicine, and engineering. The research and professional activities have made significant contributions to knowledge and practice in their respective fields. Some of them have served as editors and associate editors for top international journals in their field. And in terms of teaching and instruction, they have developed new degree programs and curricula and taught courses and introduced creative pedagogies. So we have diverse expertise in teaching and research. And many want to share and aspire to build strong connections with Nepali scholars and Nepali academic institutions in Nepal. And they aim to share their knowledge, the experience they gained in the US, and contribute to Nepal as well. So NACA is established to bring this diaspora academic community together that provides a collective voice and foster collaborative efforts. Through this network, we aim to make a meaningful contribution to Nepal. So through our collaboration, हामी नेपालको उच्च शिक्षा र अनुसन्धानमा को capacity buildingमा we want to contribute. Our activities are mostly focused on knowledge sharing, networking, and capacity building. And I would like to highlight a few of the activities we have done recently. We have organized 3 conferences. The last conference was in Phoenix, Arizona, and some of you attended the conference. We'll be doing our next conference in 2025 in North Carolina, and we'll announce the conference and provide you the details this morning, so be sure to stick around. These conferences bring scholars from different disciplines who focus on issues related to Nepal and beyond, and also provide networking opportunities. We have also organized 12 webinars within the last few years on various topics, such as higher education policies in Nepal, social and applied sciences research in Nepal, women scholars of Nepali diaspora, and many more recently, we organized AI, use of generative AI in academia. Recently, we established a new partnership with Daitwa Abhiyan to advance evidence-based policy making in Nepal. NACA is collaborating with Daitwa to provide mentorship support to their public policy fellows. We have a group of 7 NACA scholars who have committed to be the first cohort of mentors. And mentors, thank you. We appreciate your commitment. This year's mentors will guide fellows who will be working with 5 government ministries, the National Planning Commission, and the Prime Minister's Office. And we are also planning to expand our collaboration with Daitwa. I see a few Daitwa and governance lab team members in the audience. Thank you for being here. We are excited to work with you. We have also partnered with 3-1 University Global Initiative for building and supporting the capacity of faculty members in Nepal. We recently concluded a comprehensive 2-month-long manuscript writing workshop, and 43 faculty members from various disciplines, including economics, public health, education, humanities, and management, participated in the workshop. The workshop involved 22 NACA members who are involved in teaching and mentoring these early career faculty in Nepal. And the instructors and mentors who volunteered for this workshop, thank you so much for your contribution. And I also see a few members of TU Global Initiative team and the workshop participants here in the audience. And thank you for the opportunity to collaborate with us. If you want to learn more about NACA and follow our activities, please visit our website. We also published our bi-monthly newsletter to update and highlight the accomplishments of NACA members. You can access the newsletter through our website. And you can see our website. Maybe somebody can add the link. This is a membership-based organization, so please become a member and support us. We need your help. This is a young organization, and we'll thrive together. And with that, I would like to turn over the mic to Dr. Brijesh Thapa.
Thank you, Dr. Nupane, for providing a welcoming message as well as giving us a summary update. So we just got some breaking news. The Honorable Minister, whom most of you have come here to see, please hang on. Her flight has been delayed from Kathmandu to Dhangari. As we all know, it's already been a 2-hour delay. She's sitting on the tarmac, so hopefully she'll get to us when she gets to us. But in the meantime, I'd like to pivot with using our own expertise in the US, 2 remarkable individuals. Dr. Udaya R Wagle, he's a professor of politics and international affairs at Northern Arizona University, as well as the previous founding president of NACA, to the floor, as well as another individual who needs no introduction, Dr. Alok Bohara. He's a professor in the Department of Economics, as well as the founding director of the Nepal Studies Center at University of New Mexico. Both of them have a long history of engagement in higher education issues. And we requested them on short notice, really thank them for their time, to really come and be a primer in the context of prior to the minister coming and talking about on the ground or national issues in Nepal. But these folks have done research, have written scholarly articles about research, and are visionaries in the context of what are the challenges, issues, as well as opportunities and the future lie in higher education? And are there any areas of reimagination of higher education in Nepal? So I apologize for the change in the format of the program. I trust the knowledge these 2 individuals will communicate will be a testament to their expertise and will continue the conversation when the minister joins in. So what I'm going to do, the format is first I'll request Dr. Wagle to present some aspects of his research. After he finishes his presentation, I would ask Dr. Bohara to summarize some of his perspectives with respect to higher education in Nepal. So while they are communicating to us, I would appreciate if you guys can have questions in the chat box, and following their presentation, I will look at those questions in the chat box and try to get some response from them. So apologize for the change of format, but I think this is much value added for the conference. So without further ado, I give you Dr. Wagle.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Thapa, for quickly rethinking the format of the program and so on. And I'm happy to share my take of the higher education system in Nepal, and perhaps a way forward to rethink it. In terms of the policy projections, my approach here would be kind of macro perspective, taking a macro perspective, and then perhaps rethinking what we can be, what we could be doing in higher education in Nepal. So this is based on a research piece that I happened to publish. And actually, let me share my screen. And okay. This one I happened to publish back in 2021. And that was focused on assessing the status of higher education system in Nepal. And that looked at various aspects of the education system, higher education system. And I'm not going to go over all of these slides, but only to point out that there have been major achievements in the past 3 decades or so in higher education. And one, that has been a major expansion of higher education institutions. As we can see, the number of universities have expanded quite significantly, and the enrollment has been expanding as well. And then it is trying to cater to the emerging needs of higher education for the growing population, and especially the young population. And one slide that I wanted to share with you is this particular one that looks at, while this is a bit dated, this is as of 2015-16, but it looks at the broader picture of the higher education institutions in Nepal. And to update, that is at the bottom, you will see 2021 numbers, that the enrollment has increased, but the rest of the facts and figures in here are actually from 2015-16 that I could gather. And so there are, as of 2015-16, there were 16 institutions, 12 are fully operational at that point. And they were established at various times, and they have some constituent colleges that they own, the university actually own, and then they have some private affiliates. Some of those are community affiliates versus others are for-profit affiliates. And then I'm providing some enrollment numbers there to show where they stand in terms of their impact. And then the piece that I want to focus on is okay. All right, this last one, average enrollment per college, and then faculty size, and then average faculty size per college. And if you look at True University, the average faculty size there per college, this is 7. If you look at Kathmandu University, that's 10. Pokhara University is 2, and so on. So this gives us the kind of the faculty size and college operation with regard to how they may have been handling these academic issues, student services issues, and so on. And while some of those are quite large, let's say BPK Institute of Health Sciences, Nepal Academy of Medical Sciences, those are more specialized types of institutions, standalone institutions. But most of the colleges that are operated affiliated with Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu University, and so on, the colleges themselves are quite small, and then if you think about the kinds of services they are able to provide, that can be quite limited in this sense. So this looks like one, there is the university-owned constituent college side of things. Second, there is the community affiliate that is nonprofit, and then third, there is the for-profit component of all these colleges. And it looks like the universities have been operating in all kinds of format and framework. And while they are providing affiliations, and that is only because universities are recognized as the degree granting institutions themselves, then what is it that the individual colleges are providing? It tends to be a little bit too murky at this point. And so with that, I wanted to, the paper that I published happens to go through all of the different aspects of the key assessments of the system as it exists right now. But with that, what I want to do in the end is to focus on this idea of reforming higher education system, what can be the options to reform, And so the first thing that I can think of in this context of overall assessment is removing politics from education entirely. There's nothing new. Everybody has been saying it, and including politicians themselves. But then saying is easier than doing it. And so that has been really complicated. And so to do that, the few things that I can think of would be, one, consolidating the existing system into 7 provincial institutions and 1 or 2, maybe as needed, federal comprehensive research institutions. That will provide a framework that's needed for the context of Nepal right now, so that these public institutions or government-owned institutions will have complete operational independence through institution-specific boards. So they would have these boards. Yes, they do have the boards now, but they would need this complete operational independence. And then no more than 1/3 of the trustees appointed by the state or federal government for fixed terms. The problem appears to be the leadership changes of all kinds, and that has to be fixed. And so that aspect of board independence, what kind of a board there is and how much independence it has, needs to be rethought. And then institutions operate as quasi-government entities. So they are government owned, but yet they are not fully government. And so they would get this special status of quasi-government entities. And then there would be independent leadership and HR systems of their own, because they are independent public universities. And the emphasis would be on developing faculty and staff capacities so that there is opportunity for those to be developed in-house rather than thinking about bringing in people from outside most of the time. And they would have complete financial independence with designated government allocation. They would get the government allocation, of course, because they are the public institutions, but at the same time, they would have complete financial independence to be separate and then thinking about their own planning and financial planning and so on. The next is allowing the private higher education system to develop and compete, of course. A lot of the development has been in the kind of this private sphere, but at the same time, they don't, the private institutions, colleges, and so on, don't have their own independence in being able to offer the degrees and so on. And so there has to be a private system of higher education as well. And for that, adopt a nonprofit model for the rest of the higher education system, rest meaning outside of the public institutions, and privatize institutions that receive less than, let's say, 25% government allocation. Those who get less than 10%, for example, Kathmandu University doesn't receive much. And some of these newer universities don't receive much allocation from the government anyway. So I don't see much point in trying to make them government owned. And so they can be recognized as private universities. Private meaning nonprofit private universities, non-government. And then delinking private from the state and federal government. So of course, those are completely private types of operations. And there's no point in state and federal governments to be intervening in the way they operate. The last point that I want to highlight is then what would actually facilitate this process of reimagining and reform. That would be by creating a higher education act governing both public and private institutions at the same time. Of course, that has been under consideration, that is being developed right now, but that has been very controversial, of course, because there are too many aspects of the potential political interference in the system. And so my few ideas would be establishing clear purpose, expectations, and outcome-focused accountability system, developing a national higher education board for initial and periodic institutional reviews and accreditation. So what kind of a format this board takes would be something to think about, but at the same time, it needs to be an independent quasi-government authority. with representatives from existing public and private institutions for fixed terms. So this is one of the things that is quite important. If those appointments are fixed for fixed terms, then there would be continuity, there would be stability going forward. And then developing, there are so many professional types of programs, of course, and for those, developing discipline-specific accreditation would be quite important. And I don't see much of that happening in Nepal. And then Nepal needs to have that system within, because there is growing body of students, growing body of programs, and so on. So this is what I wanted to share. Thank you for listening. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Wagle, for setting the stage in the context of reforms and focusing on three different pillars, if you will. So in the interest of a transition, let's move on to Dr. Bohara's 5 points that he would like to articulate to the group. So like I said earlier, is please, participants, please put your questions in the chat box, for Dr. Wagle, as well as for Dr. Bohara. So Dr. Bohara, the Zoom floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thapa. I think the reform in higher education, we all have been thinking about it for a while, and I've written about several months ago sort of a comprehensive reform issues in the higher education, and there's a lot of overlap between what I wrote and disseminated and what Dr. Wagle just shared. But what I wanted to do today was actually about 6 or 7 questions that I had written down as my inquiry for our Minister Sumana Shrestha, actually. So those 6 or 7 questions, and those questions were based on the conversation she's been having with the different community leaders, parliament, as well as lots of parliamentary people or the members discussing various aspects of our higher education systems. So I had about like 6 questions that actually I wanted to ask her. So I'll take this opportunity since she's not here. So I'll kind of lay out those questions, and perhaps she might, when she joins, she might be able to kind of highlight and answer some of those. The first thing is, one of the things she, let me start by saying that we're very lucky to have someone like her, who is seems to be so dedicated in doing something, right? Like at least having a minister who is trying to do something. There may be some mistakes, some stumbling, but I think trying to do something and also being open to listen to other people is a good thing. So that's something we should appreciate. So a couple of things she has done. One was the K-12 education free, and also her attempt to exam having on schedule. That's something she started as a pilot just the other day. And also she's trying to deal with the big elephant in the room, politics. So I'll set that politics aside for now and then get into the other low-hanging fruits, because politics is a pretty difficult issue that needs to be dealt with very carefully. It might also involve some of the issues like free speech versus academic environment. So I think I would like to ask her that how she will balance faculty's free speech and liberty, as well as how to clean the interference of politics in our education system. So I'll let her deal with that. One question I had for her and for us to discuss is, we've been hearing about all the Senate system in the university system where the prime minister is the chancellor, then the minister becomes the, I think the or deputy chancellor or something like that, right? They have those designations. And the Senate would have a bunch of officials and some token civic or intellectuals. So that certainly dominates all the hiring process, decision-making, and you name it. And then we have had lots of Bhagbanda system of dividing all the deans and the rector, register, VCs. I think she did this time, with the help of the prime minister, to go at least publicly, right, in open competition. That's a very good sign. And one of the things lots of academic community is also demanding had to do with the board of trustee. So one thing I wanted to ask her was whether or not the board of trustee, if I am not wrong, some of the listener on our group here in our listing might correct me. I think we have tried that in Gandhaki University. I think Gandhaki University, if I'm not incorrect, they have a independent, there's no prime minister as a chancellor there, I believe. And also they have a board of trustee. So the question is, how is that experiment going? So I would like to would love to hear from her if that experiment is working or what are the gaps. So that's one question I had. And the second is, she also talked about in her presentation and other member throwing the word like research university, we need to create some university as a research. The question is, what are the criterion, right? In this country, we have like some sort of a Carnegie Mellon research ranking. For example, University of New Mexico is called R1. So what does she have in mind? I mean, what kind of criteria are we going to use, right? So maybe I'm thinking about Tribhuvan University being one of the major university systems serving a lot of people in a very affordable cost. That sounds like they have a very good department. So that could be research university. Same way, Kathmandu University could be a research university. But then can we also have every other 17 universities or 19, depending on how you count in Nepal? Are we all going to call them all research university? Or do we also create some sort of a category of, okay, you have one or two, if you qualify, become research university, then the funding and all the other thing will happen accordingly. At the same time, you can have several so-called teaching-oriented universities up to master's program. And then you have a third tier. That's one of the recommendations I had in my writing. And then there's some a concern, at least to me, is phasing out vocational training. Some politicians were saying, well, letting the university take over some of those vocational education trade. But I don't think that's a good idea. I think the trade schools are essential in terms of creating blue collar, especially given the fact that this exodus of our manpower, where intellectual or blue collar to other country, will not stop for many, many years to come. It will continue. And I've given my rationale in terms of the demographic collapse in Europe, Japan, South Korea, creating a demand for skilled labor. And Nepal, no matter what you do, we cannot stop that outflow of our blue collar as well as intellectual youth. Even a country like Germany is promoting how to retain international students. So this is the new, I analyzed all of that in my recent article I published this morning, and some of you may have seen it. So that's, and in the process, nothing perfect. I also offer an idea of the National Volunteer Youth System. And the idea is that we complain or we are concerned about all of our doctors leaving the country, engineers. Like over the last 3-4 years, we had 5,000 doctors we produced. That's great. But the question is, half of them leave or engineers leaving, as well as +2 students who the country has invested so much in, also go to other countries, 100,000 a year to study, and many not to return. They don't return back to the country, just like us, right? We also are the similar push or pull factor product, including us. So I think the question was, can we do some sort of volunteering idea like Germany does, Canada does, Nigeria, and many countries to mandatory or voluntary to have all their youths coming out of high school or even college to spend 1 year or 2 years in the country. So at least in Nepal case, if we say +2, have a year or 18 months of volunteer service in our rural areas in the kinds of skill training that they will get, and then go and contribute in our economy. So that might be one way to extract some rent from these youth. The other one is a doctor engineer, probably before they are allowed to leave, maybe have a 1 year or a year and a half of civic duty in the country. So maybe that couple of things like that might be that we might be able to extract some intellectual capital from them before they leave the country. And it's nothing new. Lots of countries have been trying to do that, mostly voluntarily, or become like a China. What they have done is they have invested so much that now they have a world-class university in China over the last 20 years. Lots of European, American, it's a free competition. They have also begun to rank in top 100 Chinese university. Of course, Nepal, we don't have that kind of money to revitalize and create all this quality university. We should try our best. So that's one issue I wanted to ask her about the brain drain, volunteering system, board of trustee, politics. I'll leave aside, would like to hear from her a little bit more. But the final thing I would like to kind of raise is elephant in the room, which is the Tribhuvan University. What do we do with that, right? Tribhuvan University is very strong, very good. It's one of the oldest university systems in the country. But having 60 plus campuses all over the country, most of them are highly politicized, as people claim or blame, or they show their concern about. The question is, can we break Tribhuvan University and absorb them with other local regional universities? So we need to do something about Tribhuvan University. Then we can have one Kirtipur University is a high quality, research oriented. That's what Sumanarji is talking about, which is the research university. So maybe Kirtipur could be a research university. Other campuses can be a part of other university system. Instead of creating a new one, for example, why not use some of the resources of the university in those provinces? And instead of having kind of a university, we have like 17 of them, very many of them are resource starved. And then there are some new ones being requested. So can we afford new ones? Well, we have not been able to fund and create a good environment for the old one. So a kind of a comprehensive, thoughtful analysis has to be done. So that's another point I wanted to ask her. So with all of that, I would like to conclude that I think we should be very, very happy that a minister like her is trying to do something. And as many of you who are willing to do things for Nepal, hopefully we can all chip in, give some tips, and maybe share some ideas with her. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bora. This is very insightful for your, long tenure of higher education in the U.S. as well as engagement in Nepal. So you've provided some good food for thought, if you will, and hopefully the minister will be here in due course to be able to engage in this dialogue or more of a conversation in terms of the what's next aspect to it. In the meantime, let me follow up with some of the comments made. One is in the context of contemporary discussions in the popular media or among educators in Nepal as well as outside Nepal, this idea of higher education. The way I look at it is these ideas that both of you have indicated there are two different aspects to it. One is complete structural change that requires a strategic approach, really dismantling and rebuilding, if you will. And the other one is more of an ad hoc process, what I call cosmetic, putting lipstick on a pig, in which is very tactical and making changes here, making changes there, just moving the chair on the deck, if you will. And that's what we've been doing. And that is allowed to be fostered largely because the elephant in the room, is, as you guys indicated, was political interference. So moving mountains in the context of structural change, higher education is a tall order, but we are thankful for the Honorable Minister for taking up that baton, that challenge in terms of how do you make, take on this mountain, if you will. So when you talk about the elephant in the room, as you indicated, Tribhuvan University, that's the oldest university. It's actually one of the largest in terms of enrollment in the world, based on the 60 constituent campuses that legacy campuses that have been there for a while. And what I've known is the leadership there doesn't want to release those types of constituents campus. Again, volume equals scale equals power equals resources. So nobody wants to give that up. You're cutting your arms. So how can we push that narrative in terms of, well, we can't say Tribhuvan University is something too big to fail, if you will. It's too big to fail and we can't do anything with it. But the idea is, as the minister indicated, is how do we create, it's not the haves and the have-nots. It's, as Dr. Wagle indicated, is really outcome focused, or more in the context of mission driven, if you will. Mission driven in terms of teaching institutions, research institutions, and of course, vocational institutions. Not to replicate what we have in the US, but looking at a hybrid approach. The system is there. It's just a matter of how do you categorize these things. So having said that, what are the approaches is, these are ideas. Ideas are good to have conversation. What are some tangible solutions you look at as moving forward, creating these 3 levels or 3 tiers of education, universities, research, teaching, and vocational? How would you go about it? With the caveat is, we've engaged in this provincial system. One of the issues pushed back is each province wants their research, teaching. They want agriculture, medical, humanities, all types. Everybody wants a piece. It's like a kindergarten mentality. We want ours too. But they're not looking at the context of we don't have the resources to support the whole country. So I'll leave it with you, Dr. Bohara, first in terms of how do we engage or have tactical or strategic solutions to move this forward.
So I think I have had some conversation with Tribhuvan University professors a while back, and I think what one of the things he said, I'm not sure if it is 100% correct or if my memory serves well. I think they had proposed something to the Prime Minister. I forgot who was the Prime Minister at that time, to do exactly that, which is having these 65 or 62 campuses, as well as almost 1,000 affiliated campuses, or 700 or so. So you're talking about 62 plus many affiliates, right? Because you have this so-called private colleges everywhere, and they have to have affiliation. And so you not only you have 62 your own legacy campuses all over, and some of them are really good, right? Biratnagar, Janakpur, there's really good campuses. So one of the issues he was saying was, well, if you ask for a university in that, why not take something that has already have had a good track record of the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years as a campuses, and convert that or build on top of that, the new university, instead of asking for a totally new university system. So I think there is this, I don't know how pervasive that opinion is, but having Tribhuvan University concentrated in Bagmati, perhaps a couple of other satellite campuses, nothing wrong with that. Maybe Trichanda College could be Kirtipur satellite or Sankardev. So you can have a couple of campuses, just like any other major university system in the world, they would have some couple of satellite campuses. But having this spread all over is, I think there are people within the university system, they think that breaking away from that might not be a bad idea, especially convincing the new request for university to take some of those TU campuses and build on it. So it's not that it can be done, it's at the willpower of the government, Ministry of Education, and the requester of the new university system, and also the Tribhuvan University's willingness to depart with those campuses. So I think it can be done. So somebody has to mediate. So I hope someone like Minister Sumana should be able to bring all the parties together and think about these things. And you don't have to say these are teaching oriented research, you don't have to start doing that. You can say, okay, so we're going to have a 2 or 3 major university system focused on research. Well, then there are some Carnegie or whatever criteria we can think of, something reasonable to declare them as a research university. Once you do that, then the resource will also flow accordingly. Faculty within the system will also have to step up to the plate to create that research university themselves. And the other one, I'll give you one more example, Thapaji, that I hear that there is this one university or IT sector, IT polytechnic or college or university system, they started with the PhD program. So sometimes the new, they start with PhD. I mean, why don't we start with undergraduate? Build on that. And have some faculty involved in teaching. Grow your reputation, your constituency, and then introduce masters, and then go into the PhD. So when I was hearing this new system, they start with the PhD program. And then I listened a little bit more. It looks like they're creating this PhD program by placing these potential PhDs without any coursework, nothing, but putting them in the industries as experience. So what kind of a PhD can we expect from that kind of a system? So I think the understanding how the university system develops from the undergraduate, the masters, and depending on which of the colleges are good at, have done well, and build PhD program from that. So it's like I think there has to be some informed discussion about all of these things.
All right, well, thank you. Those are, at least those are some tangible solutions put on the table. Let me reach back to Dr. Wagle's the assessment in terms of changes. One of the things, it's a contemporary discussion of the last 2 or 3 years. As we know, every time you go to Nepal, or people from Nepal, every time you drive around major cities or even rural communities, you see this commercialization of higher education. So education equals business. It's a way of livelihood. So compromising quality is that what we see. When we put that in the context of higher education, and the idea is the colleges that are affiliated with the universities are even doing much better than the university itself that grant the degree. And when you put in a nutshell is we should think about privatization as well as allowing private universities to develop. The question I have for Dr. Wagle is, given what we know in which the constraints of resources, the talent at the public university, will allowing private universities that have deep pockets, what you call put the public universities on the back footing, because it's really the haves and the have-nots. So what are your thoughts on that in the context of should Nepal allow privatization of higher education universities to offer their own degrees?
Thank you, Dr. Thapa. That is a very strategic point there. The way the Nepal government is trying to reform higher education, like anything else, even K-12 education for that matter, tends to be tactical, the way you termed it, rather than more strategic. That has been the problem, because focusing on tactical issues, low-hanging fruits, and so on, will not necessarily do the reform that we are looking for. And as you mentioned, the proliferation of private colleges, private here meaning for-profit colleges. In the slide, the table that I shared, Tribhuvan University has about 1,100 colleges, including affiliate colleges. And of those, more than half are actually for-profit colleges. And that is the landscape of higher education in Nepal right now. Community colleges are community owned, not necessarily community colleges in the sense of the US, but community colleges are community owned colleges. They are nonprofit colleges, but private for-profit colleges are where most of the growth has happened, including in the number of colleges and enrollment. And so same thing with K-12 education in Nepal, same thing with other kinds of things like health and so on. So that has been the major thrust of the more recent development. And if they are for profit, whether or not you introduce the profit component into the education system and higher education system in particular is a separate issue that the government needs to deal with. But my proposal for rethinking the system with regard to creating public and private institutions is to maybe move all of that or some of that private operation, for-profit operation, into private universities. So whether they are affiliates, whether they are actually owned by the universities, maybe there is a split ownership, all of that is something that needs to be worked out. Like in terms of the community-owned affiliate colleges, the ownership issue is quite important. If you want to be affiliated, then it's not just a matter of affiliation in the sense that you allow your students to sit for the exams and then get the degree from a given university. It also needs to be about shared ownership. So how much of the ownership is actually from the university versus how much of the ownership is independent. And so that applies more to the private system in ways. If you allow some private universities, yes, there would have to be a system of establishing new universities, a system of accrediting new universities, providing approval for those, thinking about not just the enrollment and the degree granting ability, but the kinds of services, the kinds of research that we are talking about, if this is about research universities and so on. So that is about creating a private system that is competing with public universities. So that there should be a space for that. And right now, in fact, this paper that I published, I termed it reluctant privatization because it is very reluctant on the part of the government. The government is not ready to give up its own control, but at the same time, it's making a case that the private sector can actually operate. Private sector has a different connotation there, but at the same time, the private entities can actually operate as long as their students are getting degrees from the institutions that are government owned. So that has been the problem. So we can't just say, yes, privatization is allowed, but at the same time, most of the control is with public institutions. So it doesn't work that way. So competition needs to be created, of course, but there has to be a system of approving these new institutions or creating new institutions out of the system of colleges that we have, whether private or public. Maybe some of those constituent colleges would like to be operated independently and without government ownership. So if that is in fact the case, like Viratnagar College that Dr. Bohara provided as an example, if they would like to if they would like to operate in the private sector, then yes, they can actually form some kind of a coalition with other independent private colleges, and then they can think about starting their own universities too. So my idea of having provincial specific universities, whether they are comprehensive research universities or they are kind of degree granting institutions focused on teaching, that's a separate, but the idea is to have some government operation, government funded operation, at least I would say in that case, maybe 25% of the funding would come from the government. But these private entities and institutions duly accredited by some kind of an independent body would actually compete with those public universities as well. And so I don't see anything wrong with creating this competing system of institutions, but at the same time, there has to be a proper process to vet those and then not necessarily have this political process. Let's say, if you want to start a university or a college, then you have to go through this approval process from either from to be designated as affiliate college through the universities or from the Ministry of Education. And so that's completely a political process. And then I would like to see a process where there is this is completely independent and goes to a board that's, I termed quasi-government. That's something that needs to be worked out. But they need their own way of approval and accreditation and so on, so that they are assessed on the kinds of comprehensive services they provide. So the system of colleges that have only 7 faculty members, 2 faculty members on average, it just doesn't make sense. So the point is to offer these comprehensive institutions, whether they are research or they are teaching universities and colleges.
Well, thank you, Wagle. In the interest of time, as well as we got a couple of questions on the chat box, let's do a rapid round robin, if you will. So I would provide some questions that either of you folks very succinctly, if you can respond. And I apologize if we can't get to all of your questions. So this is from Dr. Bhattarai. Considering the prevalence of AI, many industries may not require higher education for roles that command high salaries. Thus, focusing on developing a robust undergraduate program is crucial. Ultimately, everyone aims to maximize profits while enhancing living standards. Strengthening undergraduate education could potentially offer high-quality services at a lower cost. So can you speak to that, please, really shortly?
AI is another elephant in the room right now in not just education, in all kinds of industries worldwide. We don't know full well how this is going to revolutionize the way we operate, we live, we work, we associate with people, and so on. And so its impact on higher education is being felt and assessed as we speak. And so we don't know how this is going to unfold the entire landscape of education and higher education, because there are so many new developments even in the AI system. And so we don't know maybe how this is going to operate maybe in 5 years or 10 years. But you're correct that some of the industry-specific expertise and skills that are needed in the 21st century are yet to be known. We don't know what kind of expertise would be needed to operate as a maybe IT consultant or social media consultant. Those kinds of things are yet to be invented. We don't even know that. And so for higher education institutions to catch up to that is going to be a challenge. It has been a constant challenge. And yes, the undergraduate education needs to be the bedrock of what the higher education system provides. But at the same time, you do have to kind of reimagine or imagine looking into the future, think about what kind of expertise and skills would be needed in the future. And so we have to proactively cater to that kind of a skill so that this system of education, especially at the undergraduate level, looking at what it operated as in the past 5 years or 10 years would not necessarily work. So you have to reinvent. You have to be innovative. You have to be entrepreneurial. And so that is what is lacking in Nepal as well.
Well, thank you. Another question is...
Can I respond that very quickly, Thapa?
Go ahead, sir.
I think I also noticed another question there by Shyam Thapaji regarding how can we tailor this conversation pertaining to Nepal's reality and so on. So let me address that. As for AI, I think it's just like the internet, new things, university adopts that, changes that. I think a lot of universities are taking steps to incorporate that in their teaching and so on. So I think AI will be like that. Some professionals will go away, some will be refined, all that. For Nepal, I think we have a long way from AI, at least for now. So speaking of the ground reality type undergraduate, I think that Nepal is a living laboratory, right? In terms of its diversity, in terms of climate, cultural diversity, as well as ecological, it can be a living laboratory. In terms of training our undergraduate, what I call sometimes experiential learning. Even the US or the university in the US or Europe have been developing what they call the community engaged experiential learning time model, where instead of sitting in the ivory tower, bringing the problem from the ground, from the developing world, and then analyzing and publishing. Instead of that, I think if we reverse the thing, use Nepal as a classroom, I'll give you an example of New Mexico, where the legislature started giving money for projects in economics department or social sciences to promote undergraduate students with the faculty or graduate students with the faculty to address the problem of New Mexico. So why can't we do the similar thing in Nepal if we have those 7 university system, couple of each, whatever, and having a grant, NSF type grant, let's say, National Science Foundation type grant in Nepal, calling for a grant calling to address the issue of the provinces. They may have a different, Karnali may have its own issues. So the funding would go toward that. So that will promote teaching as well as research. And actually that proposal was Dr. Mathema and a couple of the vice chancellor and myself, we presented that to then Prime Minister Mother Nepal to create a kind of a grant agency to encourage research and teaching and community engaged type activities across Nepal instead of just concentrating in Kathmandu. So that could be one way to address that.
Okay, in the interest of time, I can see the passion evoked by these two gentlemen, as well as the chat box questions. Apologize, we can't get to all the questions, but as the day goes on, we will take these questions up and keep the conversation going. I know there's passion on all these issues. So we still are waiting word from the minister in terms of her arrival. So in the interest of being respectful for everybody's time, let's keep on moving with the agenda as it's stated. And when she does show up, then we let her lead in to the conversation directly to talk about on the ground issues and the things she's tackling. So based on our schedule at 11 o'clock, I want to first thank Dr. Bohara and Dr. Wagle. Thank you very much for last minute pivoting and really adding value to the conversations. Thank you.